Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters Studio. I'm your host, Mitch, and Eddie is joining me today to talk about, well, a very interesting topic that I think is probably up for debate. I mean, there's definitely going to be people on both sides of this, and Eddie actually brought this topic up. So, Eddie, what topic are we talking about today?
Well, it's been pretty much a Commander classic comment to say mono white, it's just not there.
Yeah.
Green is king. Mm-hmm. The other colors do pretty well, but white is just it's lacking.
Well, it's not in the Simic card, Eddie, right? So it must be terrible, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't play it. Let's be real. And so we're kind of noticing there's a trend. There's new cards coming out. They're making at least an attempt to ramp up the power level a bit, giving white some goodies here and there, and we're saying, is it fixed?
Yeah.
Is mono white able to hang with the regular crowd now, or are they still kind of shunned off to the side?
Yeah, has it finally caught up? Is it like if you bring it to a table, are you at a disadvantage inherently just for building a mono white deck versus if you're building a mono green deck or a mono black deck or a mono blue deck or a mono red?
Yep.
There we go. We got all the colors.
Ooh, colorless.
Colorless too. Yeah, actually, there was an episode a while back where we talked about colorless being more powerful than mono white.
Yeah, it was arguable.
Probably it is.
Yeah.
But these days it might not be because, like you said, we are getting more and more things lately. Now, does that tilt the scales enough? And I guess we're going to dive into this and do some great research on this.
Oh,
yeah. So what's the answer? Just give me the answer right now.
Mono white still needs some work. It's true. But they're better.
All right. All right. Well, that was the episode, and
see you next time. No, but seriously, if you want to play mono white, you're in a much better place now. We'll talk about some of the tools they've gotten, some of the problems that persist over the years. Maybe some things we think that could be done to continue to improve it.
Yeah.
And some areas that haven't been delved into that maybe are good places for designers to kind of tap into those to
100%
to help match what the other colors already have.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first point you bring up is that a lot of the other colors, especially green, which is a favorite color of many, have a lot of blurred lines of what they can do. I mean, green can literally do anything.
Right.
Like literally, I mean, some people say green can't remove creatures. Like, yeah, green can remove creatures.
Got fight spells at instant speed.
What's that 10-mana dinosaur that just literally fights everything essentially?
Oh yeah, Apex Altasaur.
Yeah, just
get
out
by
the way.
Yeah,
it's gonna take out your army with that. Or Azuri's Predation too. Green has plenty of ways to deal with basically any problem that it needs to deal with. It also has Harmonize, which is just straight up draw 3. And if that was in mono white, that'd probably be that'd be the most played mono white card of all time probably. If you literally just put Harmonize in white, it'd be hey, because the white decks need draw, right? I mean,
they need draw.
I mean, I guess we should probably point that out. What are the main things that mono white is? What's mono white lacking? I can't even get it out.
Yeah. Like you said, card draw has historically been a terrible one. Ramp has been terrible. You pretty much only have artifacts. That's it.
Yep.
We're starting to see some changes. There's some creatures, some artifacts, enchantments even, that can help you kind of keep parity with the table. One of our arguments, I think, when it comes to ramp and that kind of stuff, people say, well, other colors don't have ramp like green does either, and it's true, but I mean, in black you have ritual effects. You also have Cabal coffers. In red you've got plenty of rituals that can go
really quick. Exactly, you can make a bunch of treasures. In blue you've got a ton of untap effects. Or you got a high tide. There are ways in other colors to get ahead in that kind of a resource, whether it's instantaneous or over time. Whereas mono white, until recently, really hasn't.
Yeah, I mean, the earliest moment that we could have said that there was a tilt towards mono white being able to do some of the stuff would have been a couple years ago now with Smothering Tithe, which we'll bring up a few times in the episode.
Which is definitely only used in mono white decks, right?
Right, yeah, about that. Again, we'll touch on that aspect later. But mono white has more than other colors been on the rails. This is the color pie. We are the color of white army swing decks, or we're the color of laying down the law, like only play one spell a turn, like you can't do things, stacks effects, but really haven't branched out into the things Commander needs: card advantage and mana ramp.
Absolutely, and that's kind of one of the things too, I guess, is like an argument against improving mono white would be, hey, they have all the things they already need to actually catch up to their colors and actually be effective against other colors. The problem is that it's more so. A lot of Commander players don't play in those ways. A lot of play groups don't play in those ways that allow for that, like a stacks build or a land destruction build. Sure, Armageddon solves the problem of the mono green player just going off and getting every single land on their deck into play, but the vast majority of play groups out there don't want to play with Armageddon.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, yes, it might technically make your deck more powerful, but we're here to play Commander to have fun in a more casual environment. I mean, even competitive decks like don't play Armageddon because when you're pushing the envelope that far, it's still not the right play a lot of times.
Sure.
And so we kind of have lacked some of those abilities to check the other colors. And a lot of times, like, land destruction is just going to help the green player more anyway because they have more ways to ramp and rebuild quicker.
Yeah. If you destroy everyone's lands, they're going to get back quicker. They play a Splendid Reclamation, and all of a sudden they're back to where they're at, and everyone's
And so other colors, especially red in the last couple of years, have dabbled with like the Impulse Draw, Exile, and you may play those cards for X amount of time.
Absolutely.
So clearly Wizards of the Coast has been playing around with new ways to try to stay within the feel of the color pie, but still acknowledge that, hey, these colors need these effects for this game type, because historically they've been designing for Standard, which is a 1v1 format with 20 life, where those, attack, combat, focus strategies were effective. But when you have to do 120 damage amongst your opponents, one's not going to do it.
Slightly different game, essentially.
Right. And so we've seen some of these things that have indicated they're willing to expand the horizons of White's color pie.
Yeah.
And I think they're making good progress. We'll name a few examples here. However, since that card pool is pretty limited, especially with this being a budget-focused channel, a lot of these cards that we're about to mention are at minimum $10.
Yes.
And some well north of that.
Yeah, we've got these listed. I think you're right. Yeah. Well, no, we got one at $7. So very budget friendly.
Yep.
No, but yeah, I think that's definitely a good point, is that it seems like all of these things that Wizards are printing are either in kind of like limited print run products or also just at a higher rarity that that they don't really have too many of those. Like, again, like a Harmonize isn't uncommon. If White had
been reprinted a dozen times,
reprinted a ton, it would be budget friendly and like and sure. I mean, Mono White has Secret Rendezvous. Woo! Which, I mean, you'll take what you can get at a certain point in Mono White. And I mean, I'll put that in a Mono White deck probably because you need to utilize what you can utilize. But yeah, there are definitely ways I think Wizards can keep exploring outside of these expensive good cards that we'll talk about here in a bit that have kind of pushed the envelope for Mono White that Wizards can keep working on. And again, different ways.
Yeah, and making sure they print these cards that are good and then reprinting them.
That too.
The first printing, important. The second printing, also important.
It's not a chase card, Eddie, though, if you destroy its value. So
I mean, look at Dockside for red. They printed that in a pre-con and then like, ooh, this is very expensive. Let's put it at Mythic in a Double Masters set. So I'm hoping that is not the case with a lot of these cards.
I think it might be. We'll see.
But we'll see. Let's get to it. We've teased some of these effects for a while. So we've talked about ramp and card advantage.
Yep.
So a few of the ones that I think of when I think of card advantage that Mono White has gotten access to lately is Esper Sentinel. 1 drop. It's an artifact creature, basically.
Let's see if you have this memorized, because it's not in front of you right now.
It's not in front of me right now. You can check my work. I will keep it over here. So basically, it's a 1-mana artifact creature, human soldier.
Yes, correct.
Great.
Yep.
And it says whenever an opponent casts their first spell each turn, non-creature spell, they have to either pay an amount equal to Esper Sentinel's power, or you get to draw a card. Triggers only once per turn.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't need that because it says first each.
Okay. Same.
So you already got it. You basically just double up on that.
Right. So anyway, this
what's
card.
The flavor text?
I'm
just kidding. I'm kidding.
You need to play me.
The more Esper changes, the more he refuses to.
Would not have gotten that.
No, I know.
But anyway, this is, like, as it happens now, a $20 card.
Oh yeah.
Which is more than the budget for a lot of your entire decks.
Yeah.
So, good card advantage. It's got some downsides. Like, it's a 1-drop. That's great.
Sure.
It's limited by power, which some decks can put counters on it or increase power other ways.
Or if it's in a deck that has equipment that can, like a Black Blade Reforged on it would be nice. But
anything that wipes artifacts or creatures or hits one of those, this is subject to double the removal. So that's kind of a downside that I've seen.
If you get it done early enough, kind of like that Mystic Remora, which also has a downside. I mean, it's kind of like a Mystic Buddy or whatever, a Ristic Buddy some people call it, but it's more like Mystic Remora in a way.
I think so.
Where as long as you get it down early enough, players are probably not going to want to pay that because they want to ramp, they want to get out their Soul Ring, they want to get out their Signet or whatever. So they're probably just going to keep ramping at the same rate, and then you're going to be drawing some cards off it, even if its power's only 1.
Yeah, but in the later game when people have 20 mana to spend, if the game's gone that long, they'll pay the 1.
Probably.
Yeah, that's fine. Another one that I really like and I've seen do pretty good work is Archivist of Ogma.
Yep.
So that one.
Let's see if you got it.
2 mana.
Yep.
1 and a white.
Yep.
Flash.
Yeah.
Is it a 2/1? No.
It's a 2/2.
2/2. There we go.
Do you know the creature type?
Ooh, is it not a Kithkin? It's like a
close. Halfling cleric.
Halfling.
Yep.
Yes.
I guess I have to tell you it's a cleric too, but there you go.
Flash. When it enters whenever an opponent searches their library, you may gain a life. Or not may. It's a must.
It is a must.
You gain a life draw card.
That's true. So I guess there's a downside to that. I could mill you out if I can search my library infinitely.
Right. Yeah. There we go.
Get those whatever that mirror that taps or pay 2 and tap to shuffle your library. Oh, it's shuffle, not search. Never mind. Okay.
Yeah, it's probably not.
Ruined my combo to take out Archivist of Ogma.
But anyway, this card also very good.
Oh yeah.
Also over $10. Yep. So hopefully they keep reprinting.
Yeah, this one's at $10.60 right
but
now.
can certainly draw you, like whether it's land fetch, ramp, or a Terramorphic Expanse, or any of the other myriad of ways that people search their libraries.
Any kind of a regular tutor too. Again, demonic tutor, any of those. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so very good card, but it's not like one of those on-demand cards like Harmonize. Like Harmonize, you get what's on the tin. Like I'm going to draw 3 cards. I need those 3 cards right now. Archivist of Ogma, people might sandbag any tutoring. They'll just keep them in their hand, and maybe that will slow them down in a little bit, but they're also slowing you down and not giving you that draw until maybe something deals with the
wasting that resource. You just have a 2/2 that does nothing essentially.
Yeah.
But
So again, we're getting there. These cards are good.
Yeah,
they're in a lot of
effective.
decks when you need card advantage in white, and because of that and their limited print runs, they're a little expensive.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, and you're not guaranteed, I'd say, to at least get 1 card drawn out of it. But again, you can respond to someone cracking a fetch or whatever.
The flash on Ogma is a nice touch.
So, which is nice because again, that is one of the kind of utilities that mono white has. Is flash is something that's in their repertoire.
Yeah, and notably, this one doesn't say only once per turn.
Yep.
So that's great.
Yeah.
And it doesn't say like only if an opponent has more cards in hand than you. Like a lot of these types of limitations would have been on this card, I feel like, if it was printed 5 years ago.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I guess I would mention too, like there are ways that you can force a search too, potentially. But
But again, building around 1 card in your 99 for this type of effect, probably not where you want to be.
No.
But still good.
All right. Next up, though, let's talk about ramp. So we've talked about there's 2 areas where mono white has struggled in the past. We talked about some card draw, and actually talked about a card that might help with both. But now let's talk about ramp. So in ramp, Archaeomancer's map. Currently,
super good.
Right, actually, 7 cents more than the Archivist of Ogma, apparently.
Yeah. Oh, your turn.
My turn.
I'll find the card. You have to. What does Archaeomancer's map do?
I think when it enters, when it ETBs, you search your library for planes. Do you just get one right away? No. It's only if an opponent has more. Eddie, go.
Not so great, Mitch.
I haven't seen it in a while.
This isn't a budget card. You wouldn't know.
No, but I haven't seen it in a while either.
2 and a white artifact. When it enters the battlefield, search your library for up to 2
planes.
Basic planes.
Okay.
So it does limit you, like if you're playing a not in mono white and have a mana base that only runs like 4 basic planes. Not as good. And then you put those into your hand, not on the battlefield. And then whenever a land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, if that player controls more lands than you, you may put a card from your land from your hand onto the battlefield.
Gotcha. So it's kind of like a not exploration, but
burgeoning-ish,
but with like a limitation, but it does get you some lands to start.
Yeah, and notably that second ability that lets you put a land into play isn't limited to those basic lands that you found earlier. It could be command tower.
That's true. So basically, kind of like additional card. I guess card advantage technically gives you 2 cards. So there's some with that.
Yeah,
too.
I like this one a good amount. Like. Even if you just get the ETB, it's 3 mana to put 2 planes in your hand. Not great, but it's something. You get a guaranteed amount of value. You can always just play those lands as regular lands per turn. But
and in mono white, you're kind of not guaranteed to be at a lower amount of lands than other players, but basically, at this point, with the resources that mono white still has, basically you're probably going to be guaranteed as long as one player is playing green, you will be behind someone else on lands.
Yeah, and this is as we talked about earlier, one of those times where historically they've limited mono white. They don't just give you pure advantage, where they'll let you put a land into play as long as an opponent controls more lands than you. So they haven't really relented too much on ramping ahead.
Yeah, you're not going to be getting ahead of the green player. You'll get to parity potentially.
Yeah, exactly.
Good word.
Yeah. Next one is a really good one.
This one I think I have memorized.
All right.
Let's see.
Let's see it.
Because I think I saw it the other day. I think you played it the other day, actually.
Maybe. Yeah, I run this one in a couple decks. I really, really like it.
Or no, I haven't played it. I think I have.
It's an enchantment, so hard to remove, typically.
Oh, we're switching this one. Okay, never mind. I thought we were going with that one. Okay.
Oh. Yep, I was getting ahead of myself.
I know what that one is. I think everyone in the world knows what that one is.
Okay, we're talking about Deep Gnome Terramancer.
Only $7. Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, so Deep Gnome Terramancer, I believe, is also 1 and a white.
Yep.
I believe 1/3, I think.
2/2.
2/2. Okay, I don't know why I changed that up. It should just be 2/2. Okay, 2/2. Gnome.
Yeah,
gnome. It's a gnome with a dwarf. It's a gnome. I can't remember if there's anything else, like a gnome explorer or something. Or Wizard. Okay. Anyways, I think it has flash as well.
It does.
It does have flash, and it's basically like if an opponent gets like a second land into play or something like that, you can go tutor for a basic plains into play tapped.
This is actually better. Wizards is one-upping you. It's whenever one or more lands enter the battlefield under an opponent's control without being played.
Okay.
So there's one of those weird rules nuances where you get one land play per turn.
Sure.
But like if you rampant growth, if you get something via a fetched land.
Evolving wilds even.
And even evolving wilds, like those cards aren't being played.
Yep.
So then this triggers, and you can go get any planes. Doesn't have to be basic.
This one does not limit it. Okay.
No, so if you were in more than one color, you could go get like a shock land.
Or your alpha duels, you know.
Yeah, from your... Never mind, we're not going to get into that.
I knew what you were going to
say. Way to celebrate your 30th anniversary. But this one also does say only once per turn.
Yep.
But this is... A lot of decks do tutor out lands in some way. So I've seen this little 2 mana drop many times at tables, and it's one of those cards, and a lot of these fit this description where, as an opponent, you know that it's going to get the person value, but it's not worth it to remove it. It's not like ending the game.
No, there's a threat level to it, but compared to some other things on the board, you might not justify utilizing it. That Swords of Plowshares on it because you're waiting for a Tali to come down or whatnot. But
exactly. So like a lot of times this one like flies just under the radar where it is able to stick on the battlefield and get you that value. And again, if you get it out early, a lot of these do rely on your opponents doing things, so they're better early game than late game. But if they stick, like I've seen this thing get 8 lands, which the rate for 2 mana to ramp that hard is 100%. Really good.
And this one can break parity because of this one you literally can get ahead of your opponents because again, if someone cracks an Evolving Wilds, they're not going up on lands; they're at the same exact amount, and then you are going past them. So yeah, it's
a good one.
It's definitely a good one, and I was close on what exactly he did. Ish.
Yeah. We'll give you a B.
Okay, this one I know.
Yeah.
Okay, Smothering Tithe. We mentioned before. Now, whereas Archaeomancer's map and Deep Gnome Terramancer are, I'd say more strictly ramp, right? Getting lands into play is more so ramp than treasures, which are like temporary ramp essentially, but still like treasures are incredibly powerful, obviously. And Smothering Tithe is a card that's used in a stupid amount of decks out there for a good reason. $22.87.
At least. Let's see.
Enchantment for 3 and a white. Basically, whenever an opponent draws a card, if they don't pay 2, you create a treasure.
Right. So not only does this ramp you with treasure, it also slowly chips away at your opponent's sanity.
Yep.
Do you pay the 2? Do you pay the 2? Do you pay the 2?
Yeah.
It's one of those cards.
It's got additional benefit.
I don't know that we need to go too much more into it. It's just a good card. If you're in white at all, mono white or otherwise, your deck will likely be improved by including Smothering Tithe. It's like kind of like the Cyclonic Rift effect. Well, it is so good.
It going in any deck that has white is pretty much like not any, but it's one of those cards where when it first came out, it was like, see, Wizards is fixing it. They're fixing mono white,
and then it was silent for 2 years later.
Okay, I think the last one we've listed here, I'll let you handle this one. Okay,
yeah, I like this one a lot.
A lot of text to it. But this one, we've got another category of both, because this one can kind of help both with ramp and with card draw.
Yeah, and I know I'm not going to get all this right, but I really remember the art.
Describe the picture.
There's casks with a tube coming out of it, and it's basically 3 raccoons who are nefariously tapping one keg and putting it into their little getaway situation to steal.
How do you know they weren't hired to do this? What if they're just cleaning it out?
It's called smuggler's share, Mitch. They are smuggling.
Okay, all right.
And then sharing later.
That's true. That's true.
So anyway, this one is 3 mana. It's an enchantment, so pretty hard to deal with. And then basically, I don't know the rest of it. Just tell me.
At the beginning of each end step, draw a card for each opponent who drew 2 or more cards this turn. Then create a treasure token for each opponent who had 2 or more lands into the battlefield under control this turn.
Yep.
So this counts both things, which are bound to happen throughout a game of Commander.
Yep.
And of course there are ways to force players to draw cards that actually...
Secret Rendezvous.
Yeah, Secret Rendezvous. Yeah, there you go. Finally broken.
Yep.
But like any kind of a wheel effect is going to just trigger this, and you're going to draw even more than 2. So, and those effects are played in a good amount of decks out there too. So, yeah, get your Wheel of Fortunes ready.
Yep. So this one's, it's just a good one. Again, every one of them kind of suffer from the price problem. There's been some new white cards in the last couple of years that have kept their price down. But a lot of them just aren't up to the same power level that these cards are. So if you are trying to build a deck that can compete with existing options in other colors, these are going to be those picks. And you're going to have to shell out $100 to get all these.
Yep, 100%. I mean, I think, and I can't remember if you have this mentioned later, so please stop me if you have mentioned later, but basically, one of the problems is, too, these cards can be played in other decks outside of Mono White.
Yeah, I think all of these have 1 pip.
Yeah, literally. Everything we're mentioning literally has 1 pip.
What about Deep Numb 2 mana?
I'm pretty sure all of them have 1 pip.
Yeah, so a lot of these are splashable. And we've seen some cards where they dabble in adding more pips to make it more limited to a particular one. The first one that came to my mind was actually in green. They're trying to limit green of all things with Silverback Elder.
Yeah, I was going to say, the new Aper.
Yeah, so it's 5 mana, but 3 of that 5 mana is 3
so you can't just slap it in any deck.
Right. But, very good card, but you need to be in 2 colors maybe, or really good fixing.
And if Smothering Tithe was 1 white, it would see a lot less play
in other decks.
In other decks.
In mono white.
In mono white, it'd be sure. You could go white. You can go 4 pips.
There's a reason people don't play Necropotence in any deck that just includes, any more than just a black identity deck.
Making it harder to cast is definitely something that we can increase the power level.
It's one of those kind of knobs that they can turn to tune the power level and where it's going to be included. So
but they still haven't seemed to do that with these. I mean, whether or not it's because they want it to be more of a chase card that can be utilized in other colors too.
Yep.
And again, we just went over. The total price of all these cards I think you mentioned is literally $100. If you really want to make your mono white deck the best it can be and be able to compete and punch up to where the other decks are at. It's tough, when you're lacking on those resources obviously there's ways to do it, but it's tough when you're lacking on those resources that other colors might have, and you have to say, all right, with these, expensive cards, these are the ways that I can finally get my mono white deck out of the trenches.
Yeah, and when you're building a deck, you want around, give or take, 10 of each of these types of effects, card advantage or ramp. We talked about 3 of each, so you need to find other ways to perform these effects.
Endless Atlas.
All of those are going to be less efficient than what other colors have to offer. So we're getting there. We're getting there, but we have a little ways to go.
And hopefully there's more, lower rarity, more accessible cards too. I can't remember I should have looked this one before. And the creature's name, that I think is from New Capenna as well.
Gallagreater.
Is that the one?
I think it's an elf. Yeah, when a creature ETB is under your control, you can either
there you go.
draw a card or
scry one, and then it's draw a card. It's the second time it's triggered. Yeah, and it can count tokens too, which is great.
Yeah, so pretty good. Limited to once per turn.
Sure.
So you kind of need to be in the right deck for it, but it's not bad. But again, it's one of those more budget options that is it going to perform as well as Archivist of Agma?
No,
probably not.
But is it still going to be effective? Yeah,
something.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Getting thrown a bone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So, one last point before we kind of move on to our next big section is, as we've talked about, all of the other colors have these card advantage, these ramp effects, these kind of staple things that you need in a deck, and they don't just have these 5 to choose from. They have 40 cards. And in Green's case, they probably have 100 cards that you can choose from, so you can cater it to I want to draw cards, but I want it to have a little dash of +1/+1 counter flavor. You can do that. And tune these effects to your particular deck type. Whereas if you're playing against a mono white deck, you pretty much know what they're going to have. There's not a whole lot of options, which not only limits deck creativity, it increases price.
And
they're just not as powerful as a lot of the other synergies that can be built into other decks. So like not only does mono white need to keep creating these effects, give us more diversity of these effects and reprinting these effects, but they also need to be able to catch up to the card pool that the other colors have.
100%.
So we're making progress. We've got some forward motion. I think it's just going to be, unfortunately, one of those things where it might be 2025 before we can be like, I can make a budget mono white deck and not feel bad about it.
Yeah. I think with one of those things too is that, and you mentioned this earlier, like red has finally gotten kind of its identity of draw, which again is impulse, and that works with red. And so like, with blue, it's just straight up draw, right? There's really no downside, just draw cards. Green is like no downside either, but it's like
take a breath, you get to draw a card.
either creature power or number of creatures in the field is kind of how it draws.
Or play lands.
It's got a lot of ways to draw. Yeah. But and then black is like draw, but at the price of life.
Yeah, but pretty efficiently.
Yep. And white is like, and like I do think that like, I mean, I don't see a reason why white couldn't be the like with that other gallery gator, what you call whatever the card was, where white couldn't just like lean heavily maybe into scry. Like there's like a bunch of scry effects, like so maybe you're more heavy into scry, which is not card advantage but is card selection with a little bit of draw sprinkled in there too. So I mean there are ways that Wizards I think can play with it on top of again kind of those parity ways too. So I think there's a lot of potential, there's a lot of opportunity, and again I think that one of these days they'll figure it out.
Yeah, and I think one point that I didn't quite get in the notes, but I think is true, is like a lot of these other effects, like Harmonize, you just get the effect right away. You don't have to wait for value. A lot of these white cards, like they're not complicated, but they're mentally taxing to keep track because they're all triggered abilities. Yeah. They're like, oh, I have to wait for someone else to do something before I get my value. So not only do I have to pay attention to like what number spell my opponent has cast this turn, what way their land entered the battlefield. Like, did they search their library this turn? There's so much like
mental capacity,
way easy ways to like miss a trigger, and then you don't even get the value that you
never missed any triggers.
No, of course not on this show.
We edit those out.
We don't. We just live with our shame. But anyway, like I think one way they could do it is to provide that immediate value. Like, do you have the most creatures on the battlefield? You get the thing. Does an opponent have more cards than you? Like, draw cards equal to the number of the highest among your opponents. Like that one blue card or whatever. That foretell blue card. I was like, why is that not in white?
Yeah, such like blue doesn't need it, and parity is the white effect, so why not? I did not understand that one. I was
color shift that one over.
And that one would have been played in a lot of white decks, whereas the blue one's not played like in. I mean, it's not played in any decks, but it's
played in my upside down tribal deck.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a place, but again, like it had a much better place in mono white than it did in mono blue. So
absolutely.
It's just like, why Wizards? But just reprint that one, change the name, and put it in white. Thank you.
Yeah. So this one I think is going to be a pretty short section, but basically, like as far as commanders go, like we're commander players.
Yeah.
What mono white commanders have been printed lately, and like have they been pretty good? Have they been lackluster? Like what are we missing? And a lot of these, like I had to do a Scryfall search of like, okay, what non-reprint mono white only commanders have been reprinted in the last couple of years that I even recognize that are like remotely on the like radar as far as power level goes, because there's just a fire hose of legends lately.
Really?
Yeah.
I think this year we're at like 320 or something.
I'm gonna kind of just power through them. There's a few of them.
Go
so we've got Giada, Font of Hope.
Yep.
So this is a mono white angel deck. So it's pretty powerful. Like it's a thing a lot of people want to play. There's a lot of support for it. But it doesn't really solve any mono white's problems, and it's not going to be included.
Hey, it
decks.
Ramps specifically for angels.
It
does ramp.
It does. But it's not like the cards that we talked about previously. Like you can't just throw this in a mono white deck and have it be improved.
It does absolutely nothing in a non-angel deck.
Yes.
Yep.
Another one that I think like I probably underrated when we did like the tier lists, and not because like I didn't realize it was going to be strong. I knew it was going to be strong, but I also just like rolled my eyes because it was going to be mind-numbingly boring. Is Light Paws.
Yeah, that one would probably take a while to resolve all those, but my goodness.
Yeah, it does. One of the things that we've talked about, it provides card advantage. Like you play, an enchantment, an aura, whatever, and then you go get to find another aura, which, while not putting cards in hand, is providing like pseudo card advantage.
Better than putting a card in your hand and just being able to put it around the battlefield, essentially.
But it's providing that value. But again, like Light Pause is a commander. It's not a card that you toss in the 99, so it's not really
It's not going
solving
to give you any card
problems.
advantage in the vast majority of other decks unless you're playing a Voltron deck, essentially.
Yeah,
So
and I would say like this might be one of the strongest mono white commanders that's come out in the last couple years.
Quite. I mean, it's not, I don't think it's Heliod level, but I mean,
No, and it's just so boring. Like you play it the same way. Like, okay, if you really want to, you could play it in a more interesting way, but it really encourages.
The most efficient way is to go get, whatever that one is that bounces back to your hand, so you just keep getting more and more and more and more. And yes. I mean,
yeah, it kind of reminds me of like Birthing Pod decks, like Prime Speaker Vanifar, like demonstrably strong commander, but we play commander for a little bit of spontaneity and things like that, and Light Pause just wants to do the same thing every game, and it's very good at it.
And part of the problem, too, I'd say as well, is that, and not that you shouldn't play this commander at all, I'm not saying that, it's just that it kind of lends itself more toward an online, approach, essentially. Like, if this is on, again, if this was on Magic Arena, if this was on, or whatever, I can't remember what the original one's called, that's, really just
MTGO.
Anyways. On that, you can quickly search through things, but you're shuffling, you're searching, you're shuffling, you're searching.
I took apart my Corvold deck for that exact reason.
It takes forever.
Strong deck.
Yeah.
But
it takes forever to do. So I mean, that again, very powerful commander, but one that you don't put in the 99 of other decks. I mean, I can't really think of a commander right now off the top of my head that's that is a great card advantage. Oh, I mean, I guess there's one. Mangara is a good card advantage commander for certain situations, and that you can throw in a mono white deck that is not running.
Yep. I feel like that one's got a little bit, it's still a very good card, but it's gotten a little outpaced by some of these smuggler share effects, which is actually good. But Mangara, the new one, is definitely one that could be brought into this conversation. The other one is Ow, the Dawn Sky.
Yep.
I've seen this one actually crop up in some CEDH circles.
Oh, really? I actually haven't seen this one in a game yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in the game, but I've seen it played, and you can definitely do a lot of interesting loops with it.
Oh, I'm sure.
So pretty good card.
Why don't you read that one really quick?
Sure. Flying Vigilance. When it dies, choose one. Look at the top 7 of your library. Put any number of non-land permanent cards with total mana value 4 or less from among them onto the battlefield. The rest on the bottom in any order. Or you can put 2+1/+1 counters on each permanent you control that's a creature or a vehicle. So you kind of lean into that first ability. There's a lot of artifacts that let you sacrifice Ow. To look at the top 7, you play a really low curve deck, and you can just, there's ways that you can kind of get Ow back repeatedly.
Oh, yeah.
And just kind of flood the board with a bunch of...
Second Sunrise type of effects, or right back,
Yeah, so Ow can be built quite strongly. Again, it's leaning into the fact that it is a commander that provides the pseudo card advantage that mono white doesn't have it in the 99, so let's put it in the command zone and it'll be better.
100%. That solves at least one of the 2 problems. So.
Yeah. Benny Brax, another one from New Capenna. Convoke at the beginning of each end step if you created a token. Draw a card. Good
a lot
stuff.
of mono white decks are making tokens.
Yep. And then the last one that I thought was worth mentioning was actually in the 40k decks. Celestine, the Living Saint. Human Warrior, Flying Lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, return target card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the amount of life you've gained this turn. So, life gain deck. Again, not direct card advantage, but you're getting something from the graveyard back to the battlefield, so you're accruing value.
Turns one of mono white's strengths into something that actually provides you more advantage, because again, life gain is nice, but unless you're playing Firesong and Sunspeaker, there's not too many ways to really take advantage of it all that much, where you're really just going to hammer it home and be well ahead of your opponents. Sure, you're ahead on life, but I mean, you can be ahead of life for so long, and then at a certain point it doesn't matter if you're just outpaced in cards. Yeah,
so I was kind of looking at these cards that we just talked about, and this is the last couple of years, and those were the most notable ones. I mean, we don't have any Urzas here. We don't have any, the new Jin-Gitaxias. We don't have any of the new Shieldred. We don't have any these new cards that are gonna just really set the game plan in motion, turn, just put the pedal to the metal. These are good cards. But other than Light Pause, I don't think they're pushing the envelope of power.
I don't know. Have you seen my Oswald the Fiddlebender deck?
Oswald can be good.
Oswald can be really good, especially when you do a janky combo that doesn't just outright win, but makes one creature that doesn't have trample infinitely large.
Right. So I think in the commander front, and this has been something that Wizards of the Coast has, I think, purposefully done, is kind of toned down the power level of most commanders. They've kind of kept that to multicolored commanders. A lot of times you can still make
you have access to more color cards.
But I think monocolored cards like white still has some room to catch up here. And then I think the last things we want to talk about are okay, so this is where mono white has been. How things have been the last couple of years. We've been getting better. We're getting better. where can we go in the future? Like,
Sure.
what, can Wizards of the Coast do to keep the ball rolling, keep mono white able to not be an embarrassment at a commander table?
I think that's a bit harsh, but I'd say to feel like that you're at parity with other players when you start the game, that you're not. I know you're just kidding, but I feel like you're not starting it just off at a disadvantage. Like if I'm playing a mono green commander, I'm not really feeling that I'm at a disadvantage compared to. Again, there's mono green commanders. I guess it's not a mono green, the one with partner that allows tokens tap for mana, but that's not mono green.
Yeah.
But even if you were to play that mono green, I would not feel like I was at a disadvantage compared to other players. Versus if I'm playing a mono white deck, I would.
Yeah, exactly. So some of these we've kind of alluded to earlier in the episode, and one of them is just the diversity of cards. Right now we've got, like, if you try to categorize all the card advantage in mono white, all the ramp in mono white, things like that, it's going to be a pretty short list compared to the other colors if you were to do the same for them. So
if you literally just Scryfall search, draw cards in mono white, you're getting the least amount of hits compared to other colors.
Yeah, so we just need to keep it going. These effects are good, but they're not all we need to be able to build a budget-friendly, especially commander deck. So considering this is a budget channel, like you said, more cards at preferably common, if not uncommon, that do similar things.
I'm not asking for a smuggler share at common or uncommon. I'm just asking for, again, a harmonize. Like that.
And like things like maybe it's more niche. Maybe it's something that you need a certain number of creatures, but like you can build a deck. Like I have a Kyler humans deck. So like if it was something that if you have 5 or more creatures, at the beginning of your end step, draw a card. Like that's a limitation. You can't throw it in any deck. But if we have enough of those cards that provide advantage for certain strategies, that's going to improve the color and make it a more fun experience as a whole.
Let me ask you this. And it's not going to be controversial, I don't think. But when it comes to color identity and what they want to do, right? There are 2 that focus on creatures, really. I mean, red probably too, a little bit. But anyways, let's say green and white focus on creatures, right? And they're supposed to focus on them on different ways, right?
Sure.
Green is supposed to care more about going big with creatures.
Tall.
White goes wide.
Yeah.
Shamanic Revelation.
And
there's another one, right? I guess Commander's in both. Anyways, Shamanic Revelation is a card that obviously is in a ton of green decks out there. That focuses on creatures going wide.
I think what if you just changed the pips out?
What if that was why could that not be in white? If white is supposed to go wide.
And it also has a life gain as a benefit. That's the mono white thing.
Exactly. So it's like if you and sure, okay, that cares about power right there for gain life, but no one cares about getting the life out of that card. Compared to the card draw. Like, why isn't that card in white? And again, why isn't that other parody card that we talked about earlier that I can't remember, something about your ancestors or something, I can't remember. Why is that one not also in white? Like, why does white just not get card draw compared to other, and they've said this, like, white that's not in their color identity, they don't get card draw. It's like every color needs card draw.
And I think one way that there's been a deluge of products in the last couple of years. One way that Wizards can use that to their advantage is kind of turning one of their own arguments on their head. So previously they've said we can't do those types of effects because it was unbalanced standard, it's not good for the limited environment.
Sure.
But we have commander supplemental products every set.
Exactly. So then it does not affect limited at all.
Yeah, and again, while it's not ideal because in a commander deck you only get a 1-of copy, and that's the problem that a lot of these cards have had. But at least over time, if you keep introducing them, it will overall reduce the pressure on all the other cards, and it'll start to drive prices down a little bit. We have the list, so start including these at a more common occurrence in the list. There's a lot of ways that they can turn all these thousands of products they have every year to their advantage to find room for these reprints.
To be able to provide for this kind of need. So
that's one thing. What about the next one here? So we got less reliance on catch-up mechanics. So a lot of these cards that we talked about, especially historically, some of the new ones are starting to get away with it. Get away from it. But Aerial Surveyor was one that came out in New Capenna. It's a flyer vehicle. Whenever it attacks, if defending player controls more lands than you, search your library for a basic plains card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. It has that clause hidden away in there. If an opponent controls more lands than you. Just maybe reduction in reliance on only getting to parity. And I think that would allow that. I understand that it's part of White's color pie, but I think what got us into this place to begin with is ignoring the color pie in other colors, but sticking to it in white.
100%.
So at this point,
how many times has the color pie just been thrown out the window for green? Again, just green can do anything and everything.
So maybe just a couple cards.
Just a little bit of help.
Yeah.
Okay. I think. I mean, actually, no, there's one more.
Yeah, you got this one. This one's one that you've talked about many a time.
Ensuring cards that improve the white color identity doesn't improve also for other colors nearly as much as you. So yeah, Smothering Tithe, more pips. Like just, and that's something that, again, like I keep harping on every single time we see one of these cards. It's like, if you're saying you're trying to help mono white, put more pips on the card. Yep. Make it so that it's for mono white, because it is going to be, again, a card like Smothering Tithe is going to be utilized by a ton of decks. I mean, it's what, I don't even know. I'm going to throw out a number, 40%, 30%. I have no idea at this point. A ton. It's like one of the top 10
and
cards.
It's one of those where, like, yeah, it's $20. So, like, if it was a 50-cent card, that percentage would go even higher. Like, more people would play it if they could.
Yeah, and it was just reprinted in Double Masters too, or whatever that set was, or whatever. So, but its price is still that high. But yeah, I mean, like, you put more pips on it, then you're saying, okay, I am trying to fix this problem in mono white. I'm not trying to just give this as a good card that's going to be a chase card for all the colors. Again, if you want to fix it, then specifically fix it. Don't just, and again, that's again, the money probably is speaking to that, where it's just like, hey, we want to make this a chase card. So therefore, yeah, we're solving it, but also it's going to be a card that sells packs. So.
Yep. I think that's all we got. That solves the problem. We did it.
I think we do all the things that we talked about.
Here's your plan.
Reprint those cards just with white pips instead. Put more pips on everything, and then and that's it. Yeah.
Problem solved.
Done. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. Now that's solved. In the comments below, why don't you let us know what you think about this? Has mono white caught up? Are they starting to catch up? Have they not caught up at all? What kind of things do you think that they could do to help solve some of these issues?
And I'd be curious, like, let's take advantage of the fact that we have thousands of people watching this out there. Like, what have your experiences been at your game store, at your kitchen table? Like, compared to games from a couple of years ago, do you feel like where the only mono white includes were Swords to Plowshares, has mono white, like, do you see more of it at the table? Is it catching up? Is it worth playing?
Yeah.
Love to hear.
Have you fallen asleep during a light pause game? Just kidding. Anyways, thank you again, Eddie, for joining. Always a pleasure to have you.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
And of course, as always, thanks again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.